When the iPad initially came out, there was one version, a 9.7-inch iPad, and all you had to do was choose the amount of storage and whether you wanted cellular data. Now the range is bloated with sizes ranging from 8 to 13 inches. You've got minis, airs, pros, and of course we mustn't forget the standard iPad. So how do you know which one you should be buying? Well, in this video, I'm going to take my 14 years of experience of using various iPads to go through what iPad model best serves you, depending on what you're looking to get done with your iPad, and hopefully help you avoid wasting your money and buying something more powerful or potentially less powerful than you need. iPads range from £329 or $349 all the way up to a whopping £2,599 or $2,599. So the cost of getting it wrong could be massive. I'm going to break this video down into a few sections. 1, mini. 2, standard, which are the two iPads I think are right for most people. 3, Air, and 4, Pro. 5, we'll talk a little bit about cellular data, and 6, storage. As always, if you enjoy the video and get some value from it, please don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing. Seriously though, you should subscribe. Do it. You'll get to see a lot more of this face, and everybody wants that, don't they? Also, there will be links in the description to all the products that I mentioned in this video. Please consider using my links if I have helped you make a purchase decision. It won't cost you extra, but I might get a small commission that helps the channel massively. Right, onto the video. The iPad mini is a great device. I should know. I have one, and it's great if you want a small device that you can pretty much take with you wherever you go. It even fits into a larger jacket pocket quite easily. Obviously, in the current British weather, where we're averaging 25 degrees C or 77 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you who don't use metric like the rest of the world, a jacket pocket isn't much use, but it will still fit into all but the smallest of sling bags. It's got an 8.3-inch screen that is significantly bigger than any of the iPhones. I got asked the question a lot when I had the iPhone 15 Pro Max, why do you have an iPad mini when you have a Pro Max? The screen is only a little bit bigger. Well, in reality, it's actually a lot bigger than a 6.7-inch or 6.9-inch as it is now iPhone, especially when you factor in the form factor and aspect ratio. The iPad mini size is very similar to a paperback book, which makes it fantastic for reading in bed or on your daily commute, where a full-size iPad will feel too heavy in one hand after some time, or a Kindle which is too focused and you want to be able to get a little bit more done out of a single device. On a budget airline, it's also great for watching some downloaded shows or playing games. Some of these tray tables have gotten so small now that a full-size iPad barely fits. From a power perspective, it has one of Apple's most recent A17 Pro chips. Chips. I'm hungry. Anyway, suffice to say that it's fast enough to do anything that you might want to do on it. It's also fast enough to do some of the things that I wouldn't recommend it for. For example, Final Cut Pro for iPad will run on here, but I think anyway that this is where you run into limitations of the size of the iPad mini screen, sorry. The screen just isn't big enough for it to be an enjoyable experience, but technically, if you have to in a pinch, it will work. You can't get a Magic Keyboard from Apple to connect it to. It doesn't have the 3 pogo pins on the back like you get with the other iPads, so you aren't going to be replacing a laptop with this, but you do get the Apple Pencil Pro, which again, because of its size, about the same size as an A5 notebook, meaning you could happily use this as a notebook replacement with the right apps. So who is it for? Well, the iPad mini starts at £499 or $499 for 128 gig, so it's around £170 or $150 more expensive than the base iPad. So not the cheapest, but also not the most expensive. I think this is the iPad that works for the most people. If you're a student, look for something to take notes on, it works. The size might be a bit limiting compared to a full-sized 11-inch iPad, but you can still make it work. If you travel a lot and want something to fit in any personal item that you might be carrying, it works. And if you just want something to keep bedside that does a bit more than a Kindle, again, it works really well. This is probably my favorite iPad because of the versatility and its go anywhere with you ability. Is that a thing? Anyway, you get what I mean. If you want to draw on the iPad mini, it's got all the latest Apple Pencil Pro features as well. Heck, if you want to play games, it will work with all the latest features that Apple has released too. And in a pinch, if you want to do real creative work on it, like use Final Cut Pro or something like that, you can. It won't be as enjoyable as the full-size iPads because it can get a bit cramped, but again, in a pinch, it will work. Oh, and it does support Apple Intelligence as well for the 5 of you out there actually using it. If it sounds like I'm gushing about the iPad mini, it's probably because I kind of am. It's my favorite iPad, the one that I use the most and carry around the most too. Now onto the regular iPad. Now, if you have to have that bigger screen, this is where the regular iPad comes into play. And again, it is the best iPad for most people who want that larger display. Now, it's not as powerful as the iPad mini. It has a regular A16 chip rather than the A17 Pro that comes in the mini, which means no Apple Intelligence, which I don't honestly think is a major loss. What it does mean though, is Final Cut Pro and some of those AAA games that Apple is releasing aren't going to work here. It also only has support for the Apple Pencil USB-C rather than the Pro, so no hovering, barrel rolling, squeezing and magnetic charging. You have to plug this into the bottom of the iPad to charge. What you do get here is a Magic Keyboard Folio. There's a smart connector on the side of the iPad that connects the Magic Keyboard Folio, giving you the full keyboard experience. A bonus on this model is that the Magic Keyboard can detach from the back portion, meaning you can leave the back part on the keyboard on your iPad. You can leave the back part of the keyboard on your iPad and get a kickstand. You also obviously get all the things that make this an iPad. A lovely screen, great battery life, and the ability to watch streaming shows, look at pictures, etc, etc. All the traditional iPad things are all still present, even to the point where people are trying to use this as a laptop replacement. It still fulfills that with the caveat that if you want to do something more demanding, some more demanding pro work, you might be better off with a different model, or even better, a laptop. If you want to use it for word processing, email, spreadsheets, casual photo and video editing, watching YouTube, Netflix, etc., it will work great. The only place it falls down is if you try to do things that the original iPad wasn't designed to do. That's where the Pro models come in, that we'll come onto in a bit. The one hardware feature that is lacking though is a laminated screen. All the other iPad models have laminated screens, meaning it sits closer to the glass and therefore looks a bit nicer. Look, in reality, the screen is great and you'll only notice the difference if you're comparing iPads side by side. Once you get home and start using it, I think it becomes a bit of a non-issue. So who is it for? Students wanting to take notes, access emails, watch YouTube, TikTok, and whatever else the kids are into these days will find it works great. If you're studying graphic design or something else that would make use of the drawing features of the Apple Pencil Pro, I would steer you towards one of the other iPads. General home users who are looking to email, watch YouTube, and Amazon Prime, or just surf the web on the couch, this is great. For the general home user who isn't using this for content creation or gaming, just general home computing, adding on the Magic Keyboard Folio gets you 90% of the way to a laptop, but with the additional benefit of being able to take the screen off and use the touchscreen. You also get the best range of colors to choose from as well as a side benefit, and the storage options go from 128 gig all the way up to 512 gig. iPad Air. Now this is where I think the iPad catalog starts to get a bit confusing. Starting at £599, $599, going all the way up to a whopping £1,449 or dollars, you have the iPad Air. The iPad Air was originally a thinner, more streamlined version of the iPad. Not so much anymore. It might be 1mm thinner than the regular iPad and 17 grams lighter, but it isn't the significant difference it was before. What the iPad Air has become is significantly more powerful than the regular iPad. You get an M3 Apple Silicon chip, which is essentially a laptop processor. This means that the Air is generally faster for everything that you want to do with it. You also get the laminated display with the anti-reflective coating that you don't get on the regular iPad. This is the first series in the range that has a 13-inch version, which you can use with the Apple Pencil Pro for a large canvas for drawing and design, alongside having just the larger screen for watching videos and doing desktop computing tasks. Having an M series chip also means that there is a media engine built into the iPad Air, which unlocks things like Final Cut Pro or playing more demanding games, as there is now hardware acceleration for those tasks. This is the iPad that you buy if you are, say, into content creation and wanting to use the iPad Air as your primary content creation device, or if you're someone that just really wants a 13-inch screen. You also get access to the full Magic Keyboard experience with the iPad Air rather than just the folio version that you get with the regular iPad. It's obviously more expensive, but it is far more capable and you can almost use it like a laptop, but have something that comes in a tiny bit cheaper than buying a MacBook Air, whilst having the flexibility of just detaching the screen from the keyboard to use it as a tablet. It won't replace a laptop for everyone. Certain peripherals will struggle to connect, and there are times when you have to find workarounds for file types that just can't be opened. But especially with iPadOS 26, you're getting a lot closer to a laptop experience, just touch first. So who is it for? Either someone who wants to replace a laptop but still have something that's extremely fast and capable for something like content creation, or someone who wants a regular iPad but with a 13-inch screen. iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is the iPad that, to me at least, makes the least sense, and I actually have one. I find it very hard here to justify moving up from an iPad Air to an iPad Pro. Yes, you get an M4 instead of an M3. To me, that is very little improvement. Both are very fast in real world use. The main difference between the two is really in the screen. Yes, the iPad Pro is lighter and thinner, but I honestly don't think anyone is complaining that the iPad Air is a fatty. And for your £999 or dollars, going all the way up to a staggering 2,599, again, pounds or dollars. The main difference is that you get an Ultra Retina XDR display, which means 120 Hz as opposed to 60 Hz and a much higher peak brightness. The 120 Hz is nice, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. And to my 40-plus-year-old, admittedly not very good eyes, I struggle to see that much difference between ProMotion and 60 Hz. Yes, there is a difference, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't that much. In reality, all iPads should be 120 Hz, but that's something to moan about another day. At the highest end, on 1TB and 2TB models, you can also get a matte display. This is very nice, and a matte screen protector just doesn't compare. The other thing that you get is a Thunderbolt 4 capable USB-C port. Why does it make the least sense? Well, it's literally trying to be a laptop replacement at this point, but an M4 MacBook Air combined with an iPad mini gives you a much better overall package. The MacBook Air is more capable as a laptop replacement because it is a full laptop, and when you want something to consume content on, the iPad mini or even the regular iPad work just fine. An iPad Pro paired with a Magic Keyboard is also heavier and thicker than a MacBook Air, so I really don't see the draw here. Well, I did see the draw because I bought one. Granted, I bought the M2 version when the M4 came out because it was a lot cheaper, but I don't find myself in the slightest making full use of the iPad Pro. iPadOS limits how much you can use the device, and while Apple is trying with iPadOS 26, it still doesn't come close to the utility of a full laptop. So who is it for? In all honesty, people who want to brag that they got the Pro. Maybe I'm missing the point, but at this price, it just doesn't make sense to me. Onto cellular data. Should you pay the extra for cellular data? Well, that depends. I personally don't, and I do use my iPad mini out and about a fair bit. The reason I don't is because tethering from my iPhone has gotten so good. Now, if you're on an unlimited plan on your iPhone and tethering is supported, I would just go that way. If you don't have unlimited, consider whether upping your plan to include unlimited data is better or worse than buying a dedicated plan for your tablet and paying more for the cellular version of the tablet. On to storage. Apple charges a lot for upping the storage. Say goodbye to your kidneys, bits of your liver, etc., etc. Each increment in storage is usually £100 or so. In the case of the iPad Pro, going from 256 gigabytes to 2 terabytes is $1,000. That is nuts. A 2 terabyte SSD costs nothing near $1,000. It's pretty ridiculous. But consider what you're going to use your iPad for. If you're getting a mini or the regular iPad, 128 gig or 256 gig is likely to be enough to hold as much movies, books, TVs, etc. that you can watch before you get back to be able to switch out what you've downloaded. With the iPad Air and iPad Pro, if you're going to be using apps like Final Cut and want to create huge video libraries, you might want to invest in a 2 terabyte SSD for a couple of $100 instead, as long as you can stomach having the drive plugged in. Sticking to 256 gig, then using an SSD for those larger projects could save you a lot of money without much speed penalty overall. So, in conclusion, for most people, I think the iPad mini and the regular iPad are the best iPads. If you've got lofty ambitions of what you want to get done with your iPad, go for the Air. And if you really just have to have the best of the best and that gorgeous ProMotion display, and you've got loads of cash to burn, grab yourself an iPad Pro. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've stayed to the end, then consider subscribing. Actually, don't consider it, just do it. Oh, and don't forget, to like the video. Have a great day.